Someone told me that to be successful, I should do the opposite of what Mike Berman does. He's like the George Costanza of higher ed. So I kind of took mine in the direction. I was going to do the kind of 5 slides, 5 things to do, but I didn't want to do it, so I wanted to be a little different. So I did 1 thing not to do and 4 things to do. And then, as Rachel said, the pop culture reference kind of guy in me, I'm like, oh, 1 down, 4 up. If anyone rides a motorcycle, that's the sort of the gear shift pattern. So I made it Zen in the art of analytics instead of Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance. Quick story aside, I was in my angsty 20s reading a philosophy book, Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance. I was in the airport in Tucson, Arizona. The guy sitting next to me was Ray Bradbury. He had his boarding pass out. So I'm like, hey, big fan, can you sign the book? So he takes that book, crosses out the author's name, signs his name on it. So I've got that at home. I've got a Ray Bradbury signed copy of a book that's not his. So the one thing, the 1 down, don't believe the hype. Timothy Harfield and I did a blog post about a month or so ago referring to the Gartner hype cycle. And our statement was, we are in the trough of disillusionment for analytics in higher ed, coming up the slope of enlightenment. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of hype, a lot of dissonance on what people think they're going to get out of analytics and what they actually get out of it, and that is ripe for hype. And I think we're in a good spot that we're getting past that. And my point is, don't buy into it. Be very pragmatic and understandable about what you will and won't get out of these kinds of implementations. Agree on the problem. So when you look at analytics, you're using the data to solve a problem. It's not a cure-all. It's not going to fix everything for you. So if you do a little more focusing and understanding what it is that you're going to solve, that helps set things up for better success from the get-go. It's all about culture. Right? Data-driven. I once had a provost at an institution I worked at ask me something akin to, how can we get instructors to care about the data? And that's a bit of a pushing a rock uphill kind of thing. Sometimes you either do or you don't. Changing culture is hard. Changing culture is a long process. If that is part of your goal and your scope, make sure you account for that, because the technology is not going to do that. So understand where things are. I've been at campuses where there is a very positive data-driven culture, and that comes from the top down, and others where it's not quite there and it's really sporadic in pieces. Start small. This is kind of my best takeaway for improving chance at success. There's never going to be, hey, this big project, and we've got it. I worked at Deloitte Consulting years ago, and I was on these large multi-year projects with large corporations, and they're tough, and some work, many don't. Starting small, dipping the toe in the water, pick a department, pick a college, pick a subset of students. We know timing-wise, it takes 6 months, a year, 2 years to start seeing results, but after a term, you can get an idea from a vetting standpoint, if this is going to work, where do we need to fix things and adjust things. And then lastly, collaborate. Not just within the institution, but cross institutions. There are so many people trying to solve the same problems, and we're lucky that we work in an industry where this kind of collaboration is positive and encouraged and doable. It's not competitive. So take advantage of those kinds of relationships, take advantage of the kinds of connections you build in places like this, and use that to your advantage.